Welcome to NBA Today. I'm Malika Andrews. We have plenty in store for you in today's show, but first I want to get right to the news about Brittany Griner. The WNBA star was sentenced to 9 years in prison by a Russian court earlier today and fined 1 million rubles, which is about $16,700. And the 31-year-old Griner, a two-time U.S. Olympic champion and 8-time WNBA All-Star, was arrested February 17th for bringing cannabis into the country. She pleaded guilty on July 7th and was convicted just over 3 hours ago. And following the verdict, President Joe Biden released this statement, quote, "Today, American citizen Brittany Griner received a prison sentence that is one more reminder of what the world already knew. Russia is wrongfully detaining Brittany. It's unacceptable, and I call on Russia to release her immediately so she can be with her wife, loved ones, friends, and teammates." And from the WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert and NBA Commissioner Adam Silver, quote, "Today's verdict and sentencing is unjustified and unfortunate, but not unexpected, and Brittany Griner remains wrongfully detained. The WNBA and NBA's commitment to her safe return has not wavered, and it is our hope that we are near the end of this process of finally bringing BG home to the United States." So now welcoming in our investigative reporter, T J Quinn. TJ, we hear the words guilty and 9 years, but what does this verdict really mean here?
Yeah, Malika, the sentence was always a formality. Whether it was a year or 9 years that she got, they knew it was going to be something heavy. They knew that a guilty verdict was a foregone conclusion, which is why she pleaded guilty early on in the trial. It's really all about the deal that the U.S. can cut with Russia. The U.S. made it clear just last week that, yes, they are willing to make a prisoner swap. Russia has said all along, hey, you may not consider this to be a legitimate process, but we do. It's important to them to maintain that veneer of credibility, try to make it look like it's a legitimate process. And so they've said all along, we're not going to really talk until after her trial is over. So really, you can look at it, it's hardly great news for her. It was devastating, clearly. But it also means now that the governments can move forward with their talks.
So what was Griner's strategy in this trial, TJ?
Yeah, they knew from the start there was no point in pleading not guilty or trying to put up much of a defense. So what they did was decide, we are going to play ball. We're not going to make the Russian court or the government look bad. She did everything that they asked. She knew that eventually, if there was going to be a deal, that there would have to be an admission of guilt anyway. So there was kind of a two-pronged strategy. One was, do what you can to influence the court. See if you can't get an sentence, as improbable as that might have been. But at the same time, it also makes it easier for Russia to trade her, essentially, because she hasn't done anything to inflame Russian public opinion against her. She made it clear right up until the end today that she was going to do everything she could to throw herself on the mercy of the court.
I want to apologize to my teammates, my club, Gimka, the fans, and the city of ECAT for my mistake that I made and the embarrassment that I brought onto them. I never meant to hurt anybody. I never meant to put in jeopardy the Russian population. I never meant to break any laws here. I pled guilty to my charges. I understand everything that's being said against me, the charges that are against me, and that is why I pled guilty. But I had no intent to break any Russian laws. I made an honest mistake, and I hope that in your ruling that it doesn't end my life here.
Obviously, it was not the outcome that she wanted, but in a Russian court, the general rule is there's little you can do to make things better for yourself, but there are a lot of things you can do to make life worse. At the very least, she didn't do anything you could see that would make life worse.
So you mentioned, TJ, that veneer of credibility, as you put it, that Russia wanted folks to respect their process. But now that the trial is over, how do you see Brittany Griner's story continuing to play out here?
Well, we know that there are already pieces of a deal thrown out there, that the U.S. wants Brittany Griner and another American, Paul Whelan, who's been there since December 2018, in exchange for a man named Victor Bout, whose name's gotten thrown around a lot in the last few months. He's a convicted arms dealer who's doing a 25-year sentence in the United States. When that deal was first proposed in June, Russia apparently came back with an offer asking for a Russian man who's right now in prison in Germany for having killed someone in Belgium. The U.S. dismissed it, saying this is not a serious response. But one thing that's been clear, if you follow these cases, generally when they're resolved, you don't know what's going on until suddenly she's on a plane coming home. There are things that the governments could discuss that are part of a deal that we may never even know about, or things that don't come out for months or years. But for now, this is when the real diplomatic work begins.
This is when the real diplomatic work begins. TJ, thank you so much for your reporting on this. We will be continuing to follow this story closely, as will the rest of the basketball world. We've seen support pouring in all over. Tweets from South Carolina head coach Dawn Staley. Hashtag free Brittany Griner. We will not stop advocating for your release. Hold on to God's unchanging hand. We love you, BG. And Asia Wilson, free BG. And Bam Adebayo, shake my head. 9 years, free BG.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.